I have a confession to make. Before we started prepping for this, when I thought of the art of war, I basically pictured two things.
Okay.
First, like a dusty scroll in a museum, and second, Gordon Gekko types in the 80s quoting it to justify a hostile takeover.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels like this massive cliche at this point.
You're not alone in that. It is easily the most quoted, and I would argue the most misquoted military treatise in history.
Right.
It's become a sort of Rorschach test. People see in it whatever they need to validate their own ruthless behavior.
But once I actually opened the stack of research you sent over, specifically this 1910 translation by Lionel Giles, I realized I had the wrong end of the stick.
How so?
The most famous book about war isn't really about fighting.
That's the irony, isn't it? If you read Sun Tzu carefully, his core philosophy is that actual conflict, clashing swords, burning cities, that's a failure of strategy.
It means you messed up.
It means you messed up somewhere earlier in the process. He's writing a manual on how to win, yes, but ideally, how to win without ever rolling the dice on a battlefield.
We are definitely going to get into the mechanics of that, the math, the psychology, all of it. But first, we have to talk about the translator of this version we're using.
Oh, Lionel Giles.
Lionel Giles. Because I was reading his introduction, and man, this guy wakes up and chooses violence.
He absolutely does. Giles was a British enologist, early 20th century, and he was tired of bad translations.
Tired is an understatement. He spends pages just roasting a previous translator, a Captain Calthrop.
Yeah, he really goes after him.
At one point, Giles calls Calthrop's work little better than an imposture. He basically says this is garbage, and it's probably because he let his Japanese collaborators do all the work.
It's some seriously spicy academic shade. But it matters. Giles was obsessed with stripping away the myths to get to the raw, often brutal reality of the text.
Which is why we're using his version.
Exactly. He wanted to understand the mechanics of victory, not just the poetry.
So let's start with the man himself, Sun Tzu. Or is it Sun Wu? The sources seemed a little conflicted on whether he even existed.
It's a classic historical debate. The Shi Qi, which is this great historical record, gives us a very detailed biography of a Sun Wu.
Okay, so he was real.
Well, the biography places him around 500 BC, but the Suntuan, which is the major historical commentary from that exact same period, doesn't mention him.
At all.
Not once. It lists other generals, other battles, but Sun Tzu is just missing.
That seems like a pretty big omission, right?
It's huge. It's led a lot of scholars to believe he was a literary invention. Or maybe he was confused with his descendant, Sun Bin, who was a real general who, well, he famously had his kneecaps removed.
Ouch. Okay, so we don't know for sure if he was real. But the biography we do have includes one of the wildest job interviews I've ever heard of.
Ah, yes. The test of generalship.
I skimmed this and saw concubines and beheadings. What actually happened here?
So the story goes, Sun Tzu presents his book to King Hulu, and the king reads it and says, "This is all very interesting theories, Sun Tzu, but can you prove it works?"
Can I test you?
Exactly. But then the king, maybe he's mocking him a bit, asks, can the test be applied to women?
Uh-oh.
He gestures to his harem. He wants Sun Tzu to turn his palace concubines into soldiers.
It feels like a prank. The king is messing with him.
Almost certainly. So 180 women are brought out. Sun Tzu divides them into two companies and appoints the king's two absolute favorite concubines as the commanders.
I can just picture this. Women in silk robes, holding spears, probably giggling.
That's pretty much what happens. Sun Tzu starts the drill, explains the commands very patiently. When I say left turn, you turn left, he asks, is that clear? They all say yes.
So he bangs the drum.
He beats the drum, yells right turn, and they just burst out laughing.
Awkward.
Very. But Sun Tzu stays perfectly calm. He says, if words of command are not clear and distinct, then the general is to blame.
So it's his fault.
It's his fault. So he explains it all again, walks through the steps, asks again, do you understand now?
And they say yes again.
They say yes. He beats the drum again, left turn. They laugh again, still think it's a game.
Oh boy. I feel like the vibe is about to shift.
Drastically. Sun Tzu says if words of command are not clear, the general is to blame, but if his orders are clear and the soldiers nevertheless disobey, then it is the fault of their officers.
The officers being the king's two favorite girlfriends.
Precisely. He orders them to be beheaded immediately.
But wait, the king is right there watching this.
He's on the terrace and he panics. He sends a messenger sprinting down, pleading, okay, I see you know how to fight. Please don't kill my favorites.
What's his reason?
He says, if they die, my food and wine won't taste good anymore.
That is such a weak defense. My wine won't taste good.
But Sun Tzu doesn't care. He basically replies, you hired me to be a general. There are certain commands acting in this capacity that I am unable to accept from you.
In other words, get out of my way.
And he kills them, beheads them on the spot. Then he promotes the next 2 women in line.
My God, what happened when he beat the drum the 3rd time?
The text says they turned, marched, knelt, and rose in perfect precision. And crucially, not a sound was uttered.
The laughter was gone.
The laughter was gone. It's terrifying, but it's the foundation of what he calls the moral law.
It's not just about fear, then.
No, it's about the absolute authority of the chain of command. If the favorites get a pass, the whole system collapses. War isn't a game. Discipline is binary.
That really sets the stage for how cold and rational this book is. Which brings us to the part that surprised me the most. I expected strategy, but I didn't expect so much accounting.
The economics of war, yes. We tend to think of ancient war as glorious battles, but Sun Tzu thinks of it as a budget crisis.
He starts listing numbers. An army of 100,000 men needs 1,000 swift chariots, 1,000 heavy chariots.
And he calculates the daily burn rate at 1,000 ounces of silver per day.
1,000 ounces? Is that a lot?
It's astronomical for that time. And Giles's notes explain what that covers. Glue, paint, armor, entertainment for guests.
Food.
Sun Tzu's point is that time is money, literally. He says there is no instance of a country having benefited from prolonged warfare.
If it drags on, you go broke.
You go broke, which is why he talks about foraging on the enemy.
Okay, this is where I got stuck on the math.
Yeah.
He says 1 cartload of the enemy's food is equal to 20 of your own. How does that work?
It's what you could call the distance tax. Think about logistics in 500 BC.
No trucks?
No trucks. You have an ox pulling a cart. To get a cart of grain to the front, the ox has to eat. The driver has to eat.
Ooh. So they're eating the supplies on the way there.
Exactly. And they need to eat on the way back, too. Giles calculates that to deliver 1 pound of food to a distant army, you consume 19 pounds in transit.
That's wild. It's incredibly inefficient.
So if you steal the enemy's food right there on the front line, you get the food without paying that massive transit cost. It's brutal efficiency. And that mindset, avoiding cost at all costs, leads right into his strategy for attacking. He's a very specific hierarchy.
The hierarchy of attack, yes. This is the core of his thinking.
At the very top, the best possible move is balk the enemy's plans.
Right. Stop them before they even launch. Win before the armies even meet.
Then you isolate them. Then you attack their army in the field. And at the very bottom, the thing you should never, ever do.
Besiege a walled city.
Why does he hate sieges so much?
Because of the timeline. Remember the 1,000 ounces of silver a day, a siege is a money pit. The text says it takes 3 months just to build the shelters and shields.
3 months just for the gear.
And then another 3 months to pile up earthen ramps against the walls. So before you've even attacked, you spent 6 months burning money while your army's morale plummets.
And this leads to my favorite metaphor in the whole book, the ants.
Yes. Sun Tzu warns that if a general is emotional, if he's angry and impatient,
he can't wait the 6 months. He can't wait. He'll order his men to swarm the walls like ants, and a third of them will be killed, and the town will still not be taken. It's the ultimate failure.
it always comes back to control. Rationality over emotion. So if we're not doing sieges, how do we actually win? He talks about deception, but then he brings up these 2 terms, Cheng and Qi.
This is a concept that often confuses Western readers, but it's crucial. Giles translates them as direct and indirect forces.
The notes mention something about musical notes and colors.
Right, Sun Tzu uses analogies. He says there are only 5 musical notes, but their combinations create endless melodies. Same with colors, same with flavors.
So what does that look like in a fight?
Imagine a boxing match. You stick your left hand out, jab, jab, jab. That's the Cheng. It's the direct expected force. It occupies their attention.
Okay, so it's the distraction.
Not just a distraction, it's the anchor. It's the confrontation. But while he's busy blocking your jab, your right hand comes swinging in from the side. A hook he didn't see.
That's the Qi.
That's the Qi, the surprise, the indirect strike. Cheng fixes them in place, and Qi delivers the knockout blow. And the genius is constantly switching them.
So the enemy never knows which is which.
They never know. It creates chaos. And that connects right to his water metaphor.
Be like water.
Military tactics are like water. Water has no constant shape. It avoids the high ground and rushes to the low ground.
So you avoid strength and strike weakness.
You adapt. You shape yourself to the enemy. There is no standard defense because the enemy is always different. Rigid armies break, fluid armies win.
This flows, pun intended, into the idea of momentum.
Yeah.
He uses this image of round stones rolling down a mountain.
Square logs stop, round stones roll. If you've positioned your army correctly, if you have the high ground, the morale, the supplies victory should just be physics.
Like a boulder rolling downhill.
Exactly. You just let gravity do the work. And this leads to what, for me, is the most mind-blowing insight, the profile of the clever fighter.
Right. Because we're used to movies where the hero wins this desperate battle against impossible odds.
The Last Stand, we love that story. We give medals to generals who saved the army from a disaster they probably created.
But Sun Tzu says those guys are not the best.
He says the true clever fighter wins battles that have already been won. He attacks an enemy that is already withered or defeated.
So he wins easily.
So easily that the text says his victories bring him neither reputation for wisdom nor credit for courage.
That's tragic. So if you're truly the best at what you do, nobody thinks you're special.
Think about it like an IT manager.
Okay.
If the IT guy does his job perfectly, the server never crashes. Nobody even notices him. People might ask, what do we even pay this guy for?
He's the clever fighter. He won before the hack ever happened.
Now imagine the guy who lets things slide. The server crashes. He stays up for 48 hours drinking coffee, and at the last second, he fixes it.
And everyone claps. He's hero.
But Sun Tzu would say the second guy is incompetent. The first guy, the boring one, is the master. He wants you to be the boring winner.
That's such a huge shift in perspective. We reward the firefighters, not the fire inspectors.
Precisely.
Before we wrap up, I want to touch on the pacifist contradiction. Because a lot of people think Chinese philosophy, Confucianism, is all about peace.
It's a tension, for sure. But the commentary notes that even Confucius said, if I fight, I conquer. The idea isn't that peace means being helpless.
But you learn to fight so you don't have to fight.
You perfect the art of war so that no one dares attack you in the first place. Which brings us to the final, sort of haunting thought Sun Tzu leaves us with.
Security against defeat lies in our own hands. But the opportunity of defeating the enemy is provided by the enemy himself.
This is the ultimate lesson in control, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can control your training, your discipline, your budget. You can make yourself invincible.
But you can't make the other guy lose.
No. You cannot force a victory. You have to wait. You have to wait for them to make a mistake. You have to wait for them to be arrogant or emotional or to attack a city like swarming ants.
That's terrifying, though. It means you have to be so patient.
Patience is a weapon. So the question Sun Tzu really asks you, the listener, is this. Are you trying to force a win where there isn't one? Or are you perfecting your own defenses, making yourself that round stone on a high hill, just waiting for the moment to roll?
That is a lot to think about. Control what you can and wait for the opening.
And when the opening comes, strike like a falcon.
We'll leave you with that thought. Thanks for listening to this deep dive into the art of war.